Welcome to Flute Q&A number 47. This is about famous flute pieces that use chromatic scales. So Q&A number 47 comes from Jeremy. I should say question number 47 comes from Jeremy. Jeremy? Sorry, Jeremy. He says, I'm currently trying to master a chromatic scale. What are some pieces, some examples of pieces that use a chromatic scale? It will help me stay motivated. Thank you. Oh, he actually asked, what are some examples of flute pieces? So we're going to have a look at some famous flute pieces that use some chromatic scales. I'll give you demonstrations, and we'll look at a few famous pieces that are not written for flute that also use chromatic scales. So here we go. I have a whole lot of examples for you. Now, if I forget any, actually, not forget, I don't have time to do all the chromatic scales, pieces that use chromatic scales in this video. So if I haven't included one and you suspect I might have forgotten it because it's so famous, and if you're watching this on YouTube, write it in the comments below because I'm keen to know what I haven't remembered. And if there's enough, maybe I'll do another video with a whole bunch of other flute pieces that use chromatic scales or chromatic passages. Here we go. All right, let me just see how many examples I've got. Ooh, I didn't count up how many, but anyway, let's get started. Okay, Syrinx by Debussy. This is famous for flute. Now, it's not actually chromatic scales, but there is so much chromaticism in these melodies. This totally counts as a piece that uses parts of chromatic scales. So you probably recognize this, or you might recognize this. It's pretty famous repertoire for flute. Okay, the next one. This is actually not common flute repertoire. It's written for flute, or at least it was made famous for flute by James Galway, playing Flight of the Bumblebee at top speed. It's a bit of a party trick. It's by Rimsky-Korsakov. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if it's actually originally written for flute. Maybe it is. If you know, let me know in the comments. I'm not going to do it at top speed because I haven't spent hours practicing this. I've spent 5 minutes practicing this. I could get that faster. With some practice. So that's Flight of the Bumblebee. By all means, practice it. It's actually not that hard. People think it's the hardest. Not people. Some less educated people think that it's the hardest piece to play, but it's not. It's just fast. The next one comes from Debussy, Prélude à l'après-midi d'un faune, otherwise known as Afternoon of a Faun. If you're a flute player, you probably know this. Let's see how much I can do in one breath. I've played this in an orchestra. It's amazing. Again, it's not strictly chromatic scales, but there's enough chromatic passages in there to be included. You'll probably notice it's the same composer as Syrinx, and I said the same thing about Syrinx. Debussy uses a lot of chromaticism, but not necessarily straight chromatic scales. He uses a lot of whole tone scales, actually. Okay, the next one comes from Saint-Saëns. This is Cor de Volière, also known as Avery from Carnival of the Animals. It's really cool. Okay, so let's see if you know the start. Also, I spent 5 minutes practicing this, not hours, so let's see how it goes. Whew. Okay, and then jumping to the next section is where the chromaticism is. So straight chromatic scales there. All right, the next piece. Forêt. Have you been noticing that there's a bit of a French theme going on here? Forêt fantasy. So this is funny, this piece. This is such standard flute repertoire at high level flute playing. I've never played this piece. I mean, I've had a bit of a fiddle with it, but I've never performed it or practiced it to perform. You might recognize it. So that's not the chromatic bit. This is the chromatic bit. Jumping down in the page, there's the famous fast section. Oops. That's really cool. It's a great piece. One day I should probably learn it because it's such standard flute repertoire. The next one, I remember doing this as a student. This is by Godard, French again, from Suite de Trois Morceaux, so three suite in 3 sections. This is Allegretto. The chromatic bit is down the bottom, which goes over 2 pages, and it goes. So cool. Great piece. If you want to learn a piece, it's excellent. And the last example of famous flute pieces that use chromatic passages is Concertina by Chavanagh. French, again. Obviously the French like their chromatic scales. This is really famous. You might recognize it. Chavanagh, by the way, is a female, Cecile. Quite unusual for the time, or at least quite unusual to be famous at the time. Again for 2 reasons. I forgot to breathe because I was talking and I played a big bum note. So that is the beautiful melody of Cecile Chavanagh's Concertina. Now, Concertino. I always thought it was Concertina. How funny. All right, now we have some 3 bonuses. These were not written for flute, but they are very chromatic and very famous. So the first one is Habanero from Carmen by Bizet. Also French. What's going on? Not written for flute originally, but famous and great. Fur Release by Beethoven, not French. Also not written for flute. It's written for piano. And you can hear the little chromatic sections in there, just between 2 notes. And the last example, not written for flute, not French. In actual fact, I don't know where this is from. Fuchik. Entrance of the Gladiators. You might go, oh, I don't know this. I guarantee you will know this. It's also called, I didn't know this, Grand March Chromatic. Grand Marche Chromatique. So grand, big chromatic march, you could call it. So I bet you know this. Etc. Most people, well, at least me until about 10 years ago, so quite recent, I did not know that it's called Entrance of the Gladiators. It sounds like circus music. Anyway, if you have a chromatic piece written for flute that I haven't mentioned, I'd love it if you could put it below in the comments on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, because if there's enough, I can do another video and show you how they go. All right. I should say one more thing. If you would like to improve your own tone on the flute, if you would like a clearer tone on your flute, come and join me at www.flute.school and enroll for the 3-day free mini course. I will fix your embouchure and that will fix your tone. So it's pretty quick as well. See you later.